I'm trying to share the window. Mr. Mushibwe, are you able to see your PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Welcome everybody to Lusaka Avocado Multipurpose Cooperative. Thank you for all those who are joining us today. We're having a presentation from Mr. Mushibwe on pest management. This session is going to be available on YouTube for the next 24 hours. Please feel free to send us your questions as the presentation goes along, and we will ask the questions at the end of the presentation. Mr. Mushibwe, over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda. First of all, I want to thank the board of directors for making it possible.
You're very low.
Okay. Am I audible enough now?
You're still very low, sir. I've put you up on full power, but your sound is very low.
Oh my goodness. Let me see. Can you get me now?
I can hear you, sir. Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Okay. I was saying, first and foremost, I want to express my gratitude to the board of directors of Lusaka Avocado Multipurpose Cooperative for making it possible for our members to be having these sessions. These sessions are very important and are the ones which we need to actually expand our businesses. Remember, production of avocado in Zambia is a new business, and as such, we need to undergo a lot of technical trainings. And I also want to thank the technical committee where I belong for actually facilitating these trainings. Today's training focuses on pest management in avocado production. And we have two sets of learning objectives. The first one is that at the end of this presentation, learners must be able to identify pests of economic importance in avocado production. The second is the enhancement of quality flows through effective management of the pests. These are the two sets of objectives which we need to achieve at the end of this training. Next slide, please. Okay. The outline for today's presentation is as follows. The previous, okay. I'll start with the introduction of the presentation. Then after that, we'll go into pest of economic importance or economic importance of pests in avocado production. Then we'll look at the major pests in avocado production. And under this, there are 4, which I listed: the fruit flies, the thrips, scales, and the force-codling moth. Then when we go through the pests and their management, I'll conclude the presentation. Then after the presentation, I'll show you a few pictures from our farm. Then I'll also give you a list of references for those who want to read more about the pest management. Okay, first things first. In introduction, I want to look at how we define a pest, or what a pest is in agricultural terms. In agriculture, we define a pest as any organism that can attack a plant or agricultural produce, rendering them unsuitable for harvest and unfit for market. You can actually note that a pest actually reduces the value for cultivation for our crop. Any crop which we are growing, if it is infested with pests, it will actually reduce the market value of your crop. Then under this definition, an organism will qualify to be a pest if, number 1, it attacks crop plants and it eats the seeds, roots, stems, leaves, and flowers. So any organism which will attack our plants and does damage to the plant parts, it qualifies to be called a pest. Number 2, an organism which causes damage to stored food, fruits, or other agricultural produce qualifies to be called a pest under this definition. And the third one, any organism which acts as a disease factor. If an organism transmits diseases from one plant to another, qualifies to be called a pest because that is a vector. Next slide. Why are we concerned about pests in avocado production? The following are the economic importance of the pest. Number 1, pests, if left in our orchard, will reduce the quality of the fruit. Remember, what we are producing is not just a product. We are producing the quality. And you are going to be paid for quality. So without this quality, forget about making money. Then number 2, a pest make the fruit unattractive, thus reducing their sales value. When you look at the physical appearance of a fruit which is attacked by the fruit, by a pest, it doesn't look attractive. And no person will come and buy a product which doesn't look appealing. So it will actually take away the sales value of your produce. Number 3, a pest causes physical damage to the plant and thereby predisposing it to pathogens. Because it is damaging the leaves, the stems, the flowers, it actually opens up this plant to the pathogens, because all those damages now become entry points for pathogens, disease-causing pathogens. Then the other economic importance of pest is that it acts as a disease vector, hence introduces disease in the orchard. As it is eating the plant parts, some of the plants which the pest will attack will already be infected with the disease. So a pest will actually now become a carrier for the diseases from one plant to another. And it becomes very difficult to control the disease if you leave your orchards infested by the pests. The other thing is that it also increases the cost of production, because when the field is infested with pests, you will not just leave it to be like that. You employ means and measures to bring that pest under control. And as you do that, it will entail spending on that activity. And thus, it increases the cost of production. Next slide, please. What are the major pests of economic importance in avocado production? Remember, there are as many pests of avocados as we have the varieties themselves. The list is long, but we want to look at those which causes economic damage to our orchards if left uncontrolled. So under this pest, we'll look at fruit flies, we'll look at false codling moth, and we'll look at thrips and scales. Next slide. Let's start with the fruit flies. It's not by coincidence that this pest has been listed as #1. This is the major pest in avocado production. And we have to note that the fruit fly is actually a quarantine pest. Any country which has fruit flies will not be allowed to export to certain countries. And if your fruits are detected with fruit flies, regardless where they've reached, if it is export, it will actually be rejected. And if it is rejected, the cost is actually borne by the farmer or the person who exported the fruit. So it is actually a very, very important pest of avocado. How do we identify the fruit fly? The fruit flies are tiny in size. They are very, very small. And when you look at them, the color is turned to brownish. The wings are translucent, almost transparent. And when you look at the antenna from the picture, it has some feathers. It is hairy. Then most of the fruit flies have large, bright red eyes, but there are some species which have got black eyes. They look almost like the housefly. Then the fruit fly doesn't only attack the avocados. There are other host plants which are liked by the fruit flies. And among those, there are bananas, citrus plants, cucumbers, mangoes, pawpaw, pumpkins, watermelon, name them. And the reason why we want to know the host plants is that as you are growing your avocados and you happen to integrate it with any of these crops, when you implement your control measures of the fruit flies, don't leave out these plants, because they will be harboring this pest and it will become almost impossible to control the fruit flies. Then, in terms of distribution, fruit flies have been recorded in all African countries, with the Mediterranean species being the most widely distributed. So the fruit fly doesn't leave any country in Africa. It is actually everywhere. We look at general information on pest and the damages which the pest causes. The fruit flies inflict damage on the fruits through puncture of the fruit skin during laying of eggs. When the female goes on the fruit, it actually punctures the skin of the avocado and lay the eggs under the skin. It doesn't lay the eggs on the surface. It's actually inside under the skin of the avocado. During this process, it injects bacteria from the intestines into the fruit that causes rotting of the tissue surrounding the egg. You actually realize that just from the puncturing of the avocado, the damage has already started, because it injects the bacteria which causes the rotting around the egg. Then when eggs hatch, the maggots feed on the fruit flesh, making galleries or tunnels. So it will start to make tunnels in the avocado, causing damage inside. The galleries will provide entry for other pathogens and increase fruit decay, making the fruits unsuitable for human consumption. Remember, we talked about physical damage to the parts of the plant. So it will start making tunnels, and through the tunnels, pathogens get in and the fruit start decaying. Generally, fruits fall to the ground as or just before the maggots pupate, and this is very important. When they make these tunnels, this maggot will start damaging the fruit. But just before it falls to the ground, the maggots will start coming out to start the process of pupating. In export, fruit flies cause indirect losses resulting from quarantine restrictions. Like I said earlier on, fruit flies are quarantine pests. So if there are fruit flies at your farm, you will not be allowed to export. So indirectly, you will not access the export market. The symptoms which you check for, I'm getting some feedback.
I've muted, sir. It was Mr. Perry joining us. Thank you.
Okay. What symptoms do you look for in the orchard, which will show you that the orchard is infested with the fruit flies? Number one, check for punctures on the fruit. I said when they are laying eggs, they will actually puncture through the skin of the fruit. So when you see a puncture on the fruit, that is enough indication that your field is infested with the fruit flies. The second one is necrosis around the puncture. you will see, the cells on the puncture will start dying off. And this dying off will result in the change of color at the point where the puncture is. It will become whitish or it will become yellow. So the patch where the puncture is will start dying off. The tissue will die. The third one is that you see some small holes on the fruit, which are caused by the maggots as they leave the fruit. In the process of developing, it will reach a point where it wants to pupate, and it will now start, making holes through which they come out. And when you see holes on the avocado, is enough sign that you have been invaded by the fruit fly. The other symptom is that part of the fruit becomes soft. When you touch it, it will become soft, like a ripened fruit. And also the color of the fruit starts changing prematurely. Those are the symptoms which shows you that your field has been infested by fruit flies. Let's briefly look at the life cycle of the fruit fly. The male adult and the female adult will mate. And when they mate, the female will lay the eggs. These eggs, like I said, are laid under the skin of the avocado fruit. And within 1 to 2 days, they will hatch into maggots. And in the maggot or larva stage, they will stay between 4 to 17 days. And after 17 days, they will go in the next stage, which is called a pupa. At this stage, they will actually start coming out of the fruit and bury themselves under the soil. And in the soil, they actually bury themselves between 3 to 5 centimeters in the soil. Then after 10 to 20 days, it will actually come out as an adult fruit fly. But the most damaging stage is the larva stage, because the larva stage is spent inside the fruit. So it's the most damaging, and we don't want the fruit fly to lay eggs and proceed into the larva stage. What are the control measures which are available? The first control measure is orchard sanitation. Under this, the first thing which you should avoid is to have fields which are poorly managed or abandoned, because this will give rise to a buildup in the population of fruit fly. So if there is an orchard which you have abandoned, please clear it and burn it, because if you leave it, they will be multiplying there uncontrolled. The second one, remove the fruits with dimples and oozing clear sap. As it punctures the fruit, sap will be coming from the fruit. So if you see sap coming from the fruit and there is a puncture, remove those fruits. It is quite cumbersome to be removing, fruits from the plant, but it's the most effective way of controlling the fruit flies, because if you let them to drop on the ground, by the time you'll be picking the fruits, some of the larvae would have come out and pupated. So remove them as soon as you see them on the tree. Then the third The third thing you do under orchard sanitation is that kill maggots by burning, burying, or tying collected fruits, excuse me, in black plastic bags and exposing them to sun heat for a few hours. So when you collect these fruits, don't just leave them on the open. Otherwise, the maggots will come out and pupate. So you bury them, you burn them, or you tie them in a black plastic bag. Because when you put them in the black plastic bag, it gets heated up and kills the maggots. Excuse me. Then when you are burying, take care that you bury them at least 50 centimeters deep to prevent the pupas from emerging on the surface of the soil when they turn into adults. Remember, the effective depth where fruit flies pupate is between 3 to 5 centimeters. So if you bury them, the fruits very shallow, they will still pupate and emerge as adults. Then you can also feed the fruits to the pigs and poultry. Maggots are protein, and if you feed them to your poultry and your pigs will actually benefit. So if you have poultry and pigs, you can actually feed them on these fruits which you collected from your orchard. Then the second method is by use of natural enemies. And the natural enemies include wasps. If you have been very observant, even around buildings, you see those black wasps which carry caterpillars, maggots, and what, and they will make a nest out of clay. When you see them around your field, don't destroy their nests. They will help you to control the whiteflies as they'll be picking the maggots from the orchard. The second one is the spiders. Spiders make cobwebs, and these trap the insects, including the fruit flies. So when you see the cobwebs in your field, please don't remove them. Those spiders will help you control the population of whiteflies. Then the other natural enemy is birds. You see birds moving around and they like feeding on caterpillars, maggots. So leave the birds to visit your orchards. Don't kill them or don't put chemical baits to kill the birds. Then also if you have bats around, they also help in the control of fruit flies. Next slide. Then the other method is the biopesticides. The biopesticides, these are plant extracts which you can use to control a lot of insects. And among them is neem oil. Neem oil, when you go to ETG, it is sold under the brand name of Niconeem. So this Niconeem, you can spray in your field, but also it is important to time your spraying. So for it to be very effective, you have to start your spraying program shortly after the beginning of flowering, because you don't want the population of whiteflies to build up. And you repeat every after 5 days. The other biopesticide which you can use is Tefrosia. Tefrosia also, if you pound, you soak it in water, it It remains there overnight. Then you sieve it. You can spray it on the leaves, and it can help to control the fruit flies. The fourth method is by use of fruit fly traps. On the left hand side, I have shown the commercial pheromone trap, which I extracted from one of the postings which Engineer Chiwala posted on the WhatsApp group. In that picture, which is below, it shows this trap with the fruit flies which were captured. Then on top, there is a bottle which is hanging in a tree, a plastic bottle. This was extracted from internet, but where you don't have commercial pheromone traps, you can actually make your own homemade trap. And the requirements are: one, a plastic bottle for probably mineral water. Then half cup vinegar, which is mixed with water in the proportion of 1:1 or 50%. Then also you need to add about 4 to 6 drops of liquid dish soap. This one is important in the sense that as the fruit flies enters your bottle and they come in contact with this liquid soap in vinegar, it will actually make the wings to be heavy and drown in the mixture. Then the procedure is that you get this bottle where you have put your concoction. Then you pierce about 4 to 5 holes with a pencil or a pen, which should be 7 millimeter in diameter, just big enough for a fruit fly to fit. Because what we want is that once it enters the bottle, it shouldn't come out. Then you hang that bottle in the avocado tree 2 to 4 meters above the ground. Vinegar is one of the chemicals which lures the fruit fly. When they just get the scent, the male fruit flies will get where the vinegar is. Unfortunately, it doesn't lure the female one. But what we want is to reduce the population of males so that this mating cannot take place. And if that happens, then we'll control the population of fruit flies. Next slide, please. So I want people to try this on their farms, their homemade traps, and see what happens. It's simple to make, and the ingredients are available in almost every kitchen. Then the second one is the force codling moth. The force codling moth appears like a butterfly, but also it is a very small insect. Identification. The adult is small, brownish, and night-flying moth. This moth becomes active at night. They are nocturnal. They are those organisms which starts their activities at night. And also, if it comes to control, it gives you an indication of the best time when you can control it. Because during the day, they actually hide under the leaves. Then females lay single eggs, mostly on the surface of the fruit. The fruit fly, which we saw in the previous presentation, lay eggs under the skin. It will puncture and lay it under the skin. For the force codling moth, it will lay on the surface of the fruit. Then the larvae are white to pinkish in color with brown to black head. So when you look at the larva, which is hatched from the force codling moth, it is whitish to pink in color. Next. Symptoms for a force codling moth. After emerging from the egg, the young larva tunnels into the fruit. So it will actually make a tunnel and get into the fruit. And sometimes the symptoms for the force codling moth and the fruit fly are actually very confusing. But one thing which you have to look for is that in the fruit fly, once it punctures the fruit, there will be some sap which will be coming out, and eventually it will dry. And when you look at it, it will give you a distinct star-shaped mark. But for the force codling moth, once it burrows into the fruit, it will start feeding and excreting and bringing the excrement outside, and it will be more like a crater. In the middle, there will be a hole which is surrounded by this excrement. Next, how do we control the force codling moth? The first method of control is what we talked about under the fruit fly: proper orchard sanitation. So ensure that you properly manage. Then infested fruits, both on the tree and fallen, should be removed regularly, at least twice in a week. And when that is done, bury them 50 centimeter deep in the ground. If that is not done, you can also put them in the drum of water. Then you also mix it with used oil. The used oil will form a layer on top, which will make the exchange of gases impossible, and eventually the larva will actually die. Then also, there is also use of pheromone traps. But also note that pheromones are actually specific to insects. Not all pheromones apply on all the insects. When you go to buy your pheromone trap, tell them the insect which you want to control, and they will give you a pheromone which controls that particular kind of insect. Then the number 3 insect which we are looking at are thrips. How do we identify the thrips? Thrips are small, slender insects which are about 1 to 2 millimeter in size, with a pair of fringed wings. There is a picture which is showing the thrip down there, and also the damage which they cause in the avocado. And I'm sure you have seen some avocados on the tree which appears like that. And also on the markets, you have seen some of the fruits which appear with that brownish leathery patch. Adult thrips attacking avocados are dark brown or black, and the immature stage are yellow in color. Then the red-banded thrip can be distinguished by a bright red band across the abdomen of the immature thrip. So when you look at the abdomen for the red-banded thrips, you see a red band across the abdomen. Then feeding is mostly on young fruit, with older fruit with thicker skins less susceptible. So they like feeding on young fruits. Next slide. General information and on the pest and the damage you expect with this kind of pest. The first one, thrips feed on lower surface of leaves, buds, and flowers and fruits. So in terms of damage, you see it on the lower surfaces of the leaves. Then both larvae and adults feed by piercing the plant tissue and sucking up, release the plant juices. So the feeding mode of the thrips is that they will pierce the fruit, then the sap will come out and they will start feeding. Under heavy infestation, you see wilting in the plant. There will be delay in leaf development and distortion in leaves and young shoots. Then in buds and flowers, you experience the abortions of flowers. And this, when it occurs, it already entails that you have already started incurring loss. In fruits, there is premature shedding because they are taking out the sap. The fruits will start dropping prematurely. Thrips feeding causes scarring of the flowers and skin blemishes and distortion of the fruit. In the flowers, you see scars on the flowers, and also distortion in the skin, like you can see from the picture which is displayed on top. The skin changes. And this change in the skin will actually result in poor fruit quality, leading to rejection in export market. Because we are targeting export market, this kind of fruits will not be accepted in export market. On local market, because some people are ignorant to know whether it is a disease or what, they will just tell them, oh, it's a type of avocado, and they will buy. You can get away with it, but export market, you can't get away with this kind of damage. Then thrips also cause secondary damages as they act as vectors of disease-causing organisms. Like I said, their feeding method is piercing, and you see the sap coming out. And if they pierce a fruit which is infected, as they move from plant to plant, they will actually carry the disease from one plant to another, thus causing secondary damage on the fruits because of the spread of diseases. We continue with the symptoms. Attacked plant tissues will have white or silvery patches. When they attack the plant, there will be distortion in the skin color of the fruit. which will be white and silvery patches all over the fruit. And they can actually cover the entire fruit. In severe cases, the infected plant tissue will turn brown and eventually dry up. When you look at the picture, the color is actually here, because when you look at the first one, it is completely covered by the infestation. Infested plant parts will have small black spot of fecal droppings. As they feed, they will be actually dropping the fecal matters on the fruit. And when you look at it, you see small black droppings on the fruit, and it will tell you that your field are infested with thrips. Next slide. Linda, next slide. Linda, are you getting me? Hello?
Hello, sir. I've moved 2 slides now.
Okay, thank you very much. What control measures should we implement? Number one, conserve natural enemies. There is hello, Linda, I can't get you, breaking.
Sorry, you're very clear, sir. Do you want it to be on thrips and control, or then on scale?
Linda.
Hello, sir. I can hear you, sir. Hello? Mr. Mushibwe? Okay, he's logged off. He'll be joining us shortly. While we're waiting for our presenter to come back, if you have any questions, please could you put them in the chat? If you can't have access to the chat, please leave messages in the WhatsApp group, and or direct them directly to me or Mr. Mushibwe. Not a problem. I'll be sending out the slides. I've sent them to the Telegram group. Thank you. Apologies for the delay. For those of you who are just joining us, we're just waiting for Mr. Mushibwe to log back in. He's got network challenges. Thank you. While we're waiting for Mr. Mushibwe to reconnect back with us, can I just say tomorrow we've got a presentation. Mr. Piri is going to talk to Mr. Daka is going to talk to us about global gap, and global gap is important if you are looking to exporting. What global gap means is good agricultural practices. So we hope you'll join us tomorrow at the same time, 7 p.m. Thank you. Okay, everybody, Mr. Mushibwe has just joined us. He's going to use the sound from my phone, and he will be audible to all of you. So if you are not able to hear him, please do let me know so that we can make sure you can hear him. So
what I think is the last slide on threats.
Yes, sir.
Under control.
That's where we are now, sir. Thank you.
Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir. Mr. Piri, can you hear Mr. Mushibwe? Mr. Piri, or anybody who's... Okay. Yes, you're audible.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry for the interruption. I don't even know because the network is showing that I'm using 4G.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, let's continue. On controls, the first control measure which you employ is by use of natural enemies. And you have seen the emphasis on natural enemies. Because these are methods which will not leave traces of chemicals on your avocados, because certain markets are very, very sensitive. They are very, very sensitive. So when you use natural enemies, you actually avoid having these markets reject your produce. So the natural enemies which you use, they are predatory thrips, lacewings, and the predatory bugs. And if you have to use chemicals in markets where they you allow chemicals, you can use lambda. Lambda also controls the thrips very well. You can go to the next slide on scales.
I'm on the next slide, sir.
Okay, when you look at the pictures on the right-hand side, you will see how the scales appear on the fruit. And I think there was someone who shared scales on the group because he saw them in the orchard and he didn't understand what these animals were. So that is how the scales appear on the fruit. On top, those are fruits, and down there, those are, that is the leaf. So how do you identify the scales? Number one, scales are small, stationary, brown, greenish insects, occasionally found sucking sap from avocado leaves. they also feed on sap. Then there are two types of scales. One is the soft, and the other one is the hammered scales. And both of them are protected by. They are protected by. Sorry for that. I was just. There was a child who came through.
No problem, sir.
Okay, they are all protected by a shell. And next slide.
Yes, sir. Symptoms.
Symptoms. When scales attack your avocado fruits or leaves, because of the sucking of the sap, there will be discoloration on the parts where they actually attack. Then there will be malformation. The leaves and fruit will drop, and retarded growth because they are sucking the sap. The sap is like the blood in the plants. Then the damage is caused by toxic saliva, extraction of plant sap, and also honeydew. The soft scales will produce honeydew, and these will attract bacteria, will attract the fungus, which will actually form soot mounds on the leaves and on the fruit. It is some sticky substance, and you see it turning sometimes black. In severe infestation, a severe infestation forms a continuous crust over the underside of the leaf. When you look at the underside, the underside is actually encrusted. It has another layer because of this soot, which is sitting on the leaf as the honeydew is produced by the scales. Next.
Yes, sir. Control.
When it comes to control of scales in our orchards, the first mechanism we use is you conserve some natural enemies around your orchard, and also parasitic wasps play an important role. Then there is also ladybird beetles. The ladybird beetles are reddish in color and has some black spots. Those are important. When you see them in your field, they will actually help you to control the scales. And when you are using the natural enemies, avoid using broad spectrum pesticides because they will also kill the natural enemies. And that is why it is important that you adopt the use of biopesticides, which are for potatoes. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
There was an incoming call. If use of chemical is one of the methods you want to consider, then you can use a chemical called Marathon. It actually does a very good job on the scales. Next slide, please.
Conclusion. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. In conclusion, what are we saying? Number one, pests can cause both direct and indirect losses in avocado production by altering the quality. If you have the presence of the pests, in certain markets, you will not be allowed to export. Hence, you lose indirectly by not accessing that market. Number two, because the quality of the fruit is altered or compromised, even in the local market, you will not access certain markets, especially if your market is the supermarkets. Then, secondly, control measures that are employed should aim at prevention of pest infestation in the orchards. Remember the adage which says prevention is better than cure. Don't wait until your orchard is infested, because control of pests or management of the pests through elimination is very, very expensive. So always aim to prevent the infestation of your field by putting in place measures which does not introduce pests in your orchard. Number three, selection of control methods to manage the pests is very, very critical, as avocados are pollination dependent crops. As you select methods, you have to bear in mind that you also need some insects which are beneficial. So if you are going to use chemicals which are broad spectrum in action, it will also kill the bees. And when you kill the bees, pollination will not take place and you will not have the fruit. So as you select your methods of control, look at those methods which allow your crop to pollinate naturally. The last point is that the use of integrated pest management in the control of pests is the most effective. All those methods which we looked at, the use of orchard sanitation, the use of natural enemies, the use of biopesticides, and also synthetic pesticides should be used in combination. The approach which we call integrated pest management or IPM, when you use these methods, you actually reduce the population of pests to levels which are economic. It doesn't cause losses in your production. So select the methods to use and use them in an integrated manner, and you have enhanced your quality in your avocados and also access markets, even the export markets. Next.
Pictures now, sir.
The pictures which you see on this slide are coming from our farm, and they were captured yesterday. If you see, we've actually integrated with maize. In the interrow, we don't want the interrow to be exposed to agents of erosion like this time water erosion. So we've planted maize. And if you look at the leaves, they will show you that we are controlling the pest because you haven't seen damages on the leaves. When you look at the stems, they are flourishing. And this is what we expect. These plants are barely 1 year. We planted them on the 18th of March last year in 2022, and on the 18th of March this year, they turned 1 year. The other thing, because of some restriction in the amount of light, as they fight for the light, they are also growing tall. As we harvest the maize, we use the maize covers to act as the mulch. We don't want to leave the soil bare at any time. So this is how the field is looking. The plants which are 1 year, they are about 200, and we've got plants which we planted from December up to date. They are also about 200, and most of this material are coming from individual as nurseries in Lusaka, the Moriah Garden. Then the other thing which I want to mention before I show you the list of references is that on 14th of March, I was privileged to attend a consultative meeting which was called by PQPS, the Plant Quarantine and Protection Services under the Ministry of Agriculture. I know some of you might have attended these meetings because they are going around the country consulting stakeholders on the proposed plant health bill, because they want to repeal the Plant Health Act of 1958 and replace it. So they are going around the country to collect the submissions from stakeholders. But one thing which came out of that consultative meeting was that we have not taken a lot of care when it comes to planting material, especially under avocado production, because some of the materials which we are using in the country, in terms of the scions, in terms of the avocado seeds, are coming from outside the country, mostly from Tanzania. And we are not following the procedure of actually acquiring these plant materials. And we risk introducing pests and diseases. Remember, I told you that some of the pests are quarantine pests. If you don't have it in the country, you don't want to introduce it, because when you introduce it, you might not have the experience on how to control it, and they cause a lot of damage before the solution is found. So let us take a lot of care as we get plant materials, even within the country. You have to source your materials, planting materials, scion seeds, from sources which are reputable, so that you don't introduce pests on your farm. To those who are buying seedlings from outside their farm, also ensure that you get your seedlings from certified nurseries. Why? Because certified nurseries undergo inspection by the Plant Quarantine and Protection Service, which is now a department. They carry out routine checks to ensure that they adhere to the standards of producing seedlings. Next slide, please.
It's the references, and then
so that shows some of the references which were used. And if you have some time, you can actually look for this reference material and study at your own time, because what we are giving you are basic information to help you manage your fields effectively. But you also need to search for this information, so that when you put these pieces of information together, it will make you manage your fields very, very effectively. And also consider consulting. Do a lot of consultation, especially with the Ministry of Agriculture and also private agronomists, so that if you have a condition in your field which you don't understand, they will advise you on how to handle that that condition. Thank you very much, and I'll hand over to Madam Linda for questions and for question and answer session.
Thank you very much, sir, for that presentation. Very informative and very interesting information. I'm particularly interested in the biochemical that you said, instead of using a broad spectrum, we should use, and then you mentioned another name. Where do we find that?
Niconim is a brand under ETG.
Oh, I see. Okay. And where are they?
They come in 1 liter, and the rate is 50 to 60 mils per 16-liter sprayer, and that is what we have been using on our farm, and it has proved very, very effective. We had a plant which I found at the farm. It started fruiting this year. It had a problem of scales, and when we sprayed it with Niconim, all the scales actually dried up, and they started peeling off the leaves, and the leaves are now looking very, very clean.
Thank you very much, sir. We've got a question from YouTube, and this is from Mr. Mwando. He's saying, where would he get the natural enemies from?
The natural enemies, as the name suggests, are found naturally in the field. You actually come across them, but if you went to Mount Makulu, the entomology section, they will actually help you get these natural enemies. In fact, some of the natural enemies, they actually breed them. So entomology section of Mount Makulu can help you in finding the natural enemies. If you give them the pest of interest, they will actually give you a list of natural enemies. But they are naturally occurring in the environment. Sometimes you are not just aware that these are natural enemies.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Like the wasp, which I talked about. I used to see it when I was young. They will come and they make a nest of mud in the house, and it was so irritating. We used to break them and what. But today I know that actually those are natural enemies which come in our field, and they help to control some of the pests in the field.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I've looked, there are no questions on the chat, and I'm looked on the WhatsApp as well. I'm not able to find any questions. So thank you so much. Anybody who's watching the YouTube video, please know that you can actually slide the red bar at the bottom to start the video recording. And when you reach to the part where we're waiting for Mr. Mushibwe, you could actually just forward the recording. It's available for the next 24 hours. Today we are joined by ACUZ members. Thank you so much for joining us, ACUZ members. What normally happens is that we get questions from the chat, and when you're logged in with Gmail, you then have access to the chat. But if you don't, you're welcome to ask for the questions in the ACUZ WhatsApp forum. Mr. Mushibwe, thank you so much for today, and thank you so much for keeping time. I appreciate it. Thank you so much to everybody having joined us today. Thank you, Mr. Mushibwe.
Thank you all, Linda, and apologies for the break in transmission.
Not a problem, sir. We understand. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You are most welcome.